very good evening to all of you. Welcome to this Friday evening session on emotional well-being. I'm Kavitha Kalaiselvi. I'm a HR consultant. I run a company called Talentegrity Consulting Services. We do HR consulting services, recruitment services, and custom training and workshops. We help startup companies, small and medium enterprises in terms of their people, policies, processes, culture, talent strategies, and a little bit of coaching and mentoring their leadership team. I did a panel discussion earlier on the topic work from home. Is that going to be the new normal? So during that discussion, one of the panelists tabled a point that he'd been hearing the news of some of his known contacts losing their lives due to heart attack during the lockdown period. So that triggered, it was very sad to hear that, and it was very disturbing me. So I thought it is essential to discuss about emotional well-being, and I thought it would be useful to many. So that made me organize this particular session, and we have the best possible panelist today, R. Anand. He's a principal consultant and advisor at a leading IT services company. He's the author of two books. One was published by McGraw-Hill, which is the Job Readiness for IT and ITES. The other one is the recent book published by Sage, which is Happiness at Work, Mindfulness, Analysis, and Well-being. This book is to help urban professionals pursue higher life satisfaction using the emerging science of happiness. Both the books have received national and international acclaim from numerous experts and thought leaders. Anand now teaches happiness and well-being as a course at B schools, and has also authored or featured in more than 35 articles in popular print media and journals. He's currently researching and developing an individual specific well-being protocol. He's a visiting faculty at MDI, Adjunct Professor of Happiness and Well-being at Jaipuria Institute of Management, external HR advisor to the board of Punjab National Bank, consultant to the Royal Civil Services Commission, Royal Government of Bhutan, member of CII subcommittees on skills and livelihood as well as HR and IR, board member and national treasurer of National HRD Network. He's an academic advisor, strategic mentoring board member of several business schools. He's an alumnus of IIT Madras and XLRI Jamshedpur. I'm privileged to host you, Anand. So this particular session is for the emotional well-being for entrepreneurs. So over to you.
Thank you, Kavitha, and thank you everyone for coming over to this very important discussion today. So I think the fundamental difference between entrepreneurs, businessmen, and the one who is working somewhere, I think, is that you all have taken more risk than any average person in society. And I think the thrill of achievement, the challenge of achievement is really what prompted you to take such risks, and in that process develop yourself and add value to society. Because by nature, entrepreneurs do things that have not been done before. And because of this very fact, there is a chance that things will not pan out as planned. So that is really part of the game. So that is the thrill of achievement that drove you here. But the same challenges that drove you here, the same challenges that once gave you a kick, if they become overwhelming, some sort of hopelessness, despair, stress, burnout, all those can set in. And the current COVID pandemic has all the portents of giving you that kind of feelings of insurmountability, feelings of hopelessness. And it is very important that at this juncture, you are the best version of yourself. I think that's a very crucial thing. Lot of things about our world, about what is happening around us cannot be changed. But what can be under our control is, are we the best version of ourselves at this moment? And that is what my aim would be, to say, is there a science to being the best version of ourselves? Is there a science to being emotionally balanced? Is there a science to being happiness, live well? And as a result of it, have the best chance of succeeding in today's environment. I think that's what I thought I will discuss. So generally, the idea of well-being, belong to the spiritual domain. So we all went to gurus, spiritual gurus, to say how do we live well. And surely they gave guidance to us at different points in time. Different gurus in different religions and different sects and societies have been giving this guidance. Now, from the spiritual world, happiness and well-being and emotional stability are all being researched like a proper science. And especially in the last 25, 30 years since positive psychology became a popular field of inquiry in the world of science. So it is from that field and the several researches that have been happening in the last 25 years, we are going to discuss how can we be the best version of ourselves at this juncture. So if you look at stress, right, stress is of two kinds, and one kind of stress is what you can call as the biogenic stress. Biogenic stress happens when a wrong chemical enters our body. Like, for example, too much caffeine can cause biogenic stress. If you drink too much cola, it can cause biogenic stress. A lot of heat can cause biogenic stress. In all these biogenic stressors, right, the body directly reacts to a stressful event outside. Then there is a second kind of stress, which you can call as psychosocial stress. Psychosocial stress is cognitively mediated. It is not because of substances, heat, etc., that we are stressed, but it is because we interpret that the resources that we have available to overcome this obstacle are not enough to overcome the obstacle. So we sort of give up. We become hopeless, desperate, fearful, burnt out. Right? That is the what is called a psychosocial stress. And psychosocial stress always happens because there is an interpretation going on in our mind as to whether this is surmountable or insurmountable. Is life doomed or is there still hope? So that is the psychosocial stress, and lot of stress today is psychosocial. And we have, thanks to advances in society, overcome a lot of biogenic stress. Right? Even though we drink a lot of caffeine, and it can be a biogenic stress for some people, but we know that we can avoid it. So that is why, long years ago, a Greek philosopher called Epictetus said that men are not disturbed by the things themselves, but by the view they take of those things. So that's the, very clever thing that the philosopher Epictetus gave. Now, I'm not going to say that, just because you can reinterpret your world and you can say everything is all right or all is well, to take the popular notion that things will be better. I'm not saying that, right? So our problems are probably too complicated to wish for such a simple solution. The one thing I would recommend you not to do is to pretend that nothing is wrong. When you pretend that nothing is wrong, you are actually denying yourself the ability to fully process the information. So when you are grieving, grieve, right? When you are being stressed, be stressed. When you are feeling uncertain, feel uncertain. I think the first thing that we all can do to get really better is to face exactly the danger that we are all facing. Face exactly the fear that we are all facing. I think that's a very important aspect of the road to being well. And we can't be, like the proverbial cat that buried its head in the sand and felt that everything in the world was okay, right? So that's not what we are intending to do. Now, without pretending and acknowledging all the limitations that are there, acknowledging our strengths that are available to us, the opportunities and threats that are available, the assets and liabilities that we have at our disposal. So we are going to look at about 10 ideas, really, right, to sort of be on the road to well-being or the road to emotional health as entrepreneurs. So I'll take them one by one and briefly also talk about why I think they will work and what can we do about it. And when you do, how can you figure out whether it is working for you or not? So these are the three things that I want to cover. So the first thing, really is to understand where you are. So if you understand the point A that you are in, then you can go to point B and you can frame a path from A to B. And one of the ways to understand your point A or where you are today is to understand your stress profile. See, all of us have what is called as a stress profile. So in our life, because of certain elements being present or absent, we are subjected to stress. They are what I call as what is in the external realm or outer world or external theater of operation. For example, we may be in relationship stress. So our relationship with significant others may not be good. We may have a stress of financial uncertainty, right? We don't know whether what we have is enough for the future or not, or we don't even know what is enough for the future. So that's financial uncertainty. We may have family dynamics in which, we are not allowed to unwind, right? We are constantly under stress. So we may have certain family dynamics going on. Even parenting can be stressful, right? Parenting is a great thing in the world when you take care. The sudden disruption of your sleep rhythm from a young child that is in your family can also be a source of stress. Nothing to feel bad about, but that is what it is. It is reality. So similarly, if you have chronic health issues, right, something that is constantly nagging you that can go wrong, that can be a source of stress. If you have a sudden, let us say, disease and you recover, that's what is called as acute stress. That does not bother you that much. But something that is lingering on, like a sinus headache, or today, the threat of COVID, they are chronic, right? So they are chronic. Similarly, a 24/7 lifestyle where you are not able to take a break is a stressor. Constant deadline pressure is a stressor. Having a poor relationship with boss or having office politics or having a poor relationship with a major customer can be a source of stress. So overload of information, so many things going on, to either to do this or to do that, to look at this or to look at that, to read this or to read that, that can be a source of stress too. Commute can be a source of stress. So I have listed 10 external stressors right now: parenting, relationship, financial uncertainty, family dynamics, chronic health, 24/7 lifestyle, deadline pressure, office politics, information overload, and commute. So any of these can be stressors. What I have noticed in my research is that, for people like all of us who are in the normal range, who are not taking medicines for depression, or who are not suffering from a post-traumatic stress disorder, or something that has been diagnosed as clearly unwell for us, people in the normal range of life facing the daily stresses of life, if three of these go bad, where you say, if I ask you, is this a stressor for you? And you say, agree or strongly agree to that. When three of these 10 go bad, then that individual starts feeling a certain amount of stress. So the first sort of tip that I would ask you is examine these 10 things in your life and find out, is there anything that you can do about any of these 10, right? And if you can't really do anything about these 10 without giving up or sacrificing on some goals, consider sacrificing on some goals, because having more than three of these go wrong is a source of emotional ill health. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say. And the second thing is that, everybody has a different capacity for undertaking stress. And by the way, like I said, there are these outer factors. There are also inner factors that make us stress prone. So because the same thing doesn't cause the same amount of stress in two people, right? So there are these inner theater factors that are there. But for lack of time, we won't go into the inner theater because they are very individual, and anything that we do have to be interpreted individually. The second thing, therefore, I touch upon inner theater, but really don't want to go into it because right now we can't do something about it in this webinar, right? We can do it one-on-one. The second thing that I want to touch upon is that if we have to understand, are we managing our stress very well? There is a simple test for it that I'll ask you to perform. So you can Google and look at what is called as a Stroop test or a variation of Stroop test. But the simple version of it is what is called as the 1-bag game or 2-bag game or the n-bag question game. So in this, you and your partner really play a simple game. And in that game, you ask 10 questions for which generally with some thought you will be able to answer. But the key point of this game is that, if your partner asks the question, the first question should not be answered by you. When the partner asks the second question, you have to answer the first question. And when they ask the third question, you answer the second question. And when they ask the fourth question, you answer the third question, and so on. And you can play this at home, with your spouse, with your kids, or with your colleagues at office. And when you are not able to perform well on this test, when you are not able to sort of suppress the thought about the answer to the first question or the second question when the first question has to be answered, then that is a simple test that you are stressed, that something is misdirecting your attention from what must be done today, here, right now, to something that is, it is like background processing in a laptop. So when you are having this background processing, your machine slows down. So it is a very similar version of it. And when that happens, your working memory capacity gets overwhelmed. When your working memory capacity gets overwhelmed, you are not able to solve problems of real life. So this is a second tip that I would say. So play this game. the beauty about this game is that if you don't play well, and even as you concentrate on playing well, you will figure out how to best make use of your working memory. So this is the second sort of tip that I would say. So play the one bag game. So the complicated version of it is two bag game, where you ask your partner to ask the first question, you don't answer, second question, you don't answer. And when they pose the third question, you answer the first question. And when you make these questions slightly related, you will see that you are getting confused. So this is a very good test to figure out are you stressed. And as you get better at this game every day, you will be efficiently processing what is in front of you. So that's the second tip that I want to give. The first tip is look at your 10 external stressors and see if you want to do something about it. And if you have to sacrifice some goals to get over some of it, consider sacrificing some goals. The second is the test of working memory capacity. A third, is what Bertrand Russell, the famous philosopher, called and Stoics called as the big book of worries. So exactly, precisely write down in your own private notebook, in your diary, what exactly bothers you, what could go wrong. So write down without hesitating, without wishing it away, exactly write down what could go wrong. And write a second thought or second event that could go wrong, a third thing that could go wrong, a fourth thing, how much ever you have in your mind, and write them down. And do that exercise every day for a week. And you will discover that it is the same things that are recurring again and again. And what you thought was a big book of worries is only 4 worries, 3 worries, or 5 worries maximum. And when you exactly write down what could go wrong, then slowly try to absorb, what it means to you, what is the significance to you, and write down, can you do something about it? And what, if any, can you do something about it? And if this were to come to pass and you are unable to do something about it, how will you cope? What will you tell yourself? What will you tell? Don't worry about what you will tell others, but write down what will you tell yourself. How will you really cope? Write that down like that. And as long as you feel not bored doing this exercise, do that exercise. The moment you have let yourself out and fully given play to your emotions, the negative emotions, you will discover that you are suddenly figuring out that you have resources to tackle this problem. And that's the third tip that I want to give. The fourth tip is pretend that whatever book of worries that you have written down is what your best friend, imagine a real best friend, that your best friend has given it to you. And write a letter to your best friend as to what you wish that person did to be able to get better, to solve that problem, or to feel better about it, or not to feel awful about it. So the fourth thing that I'd like you to do is write a letter to your best friend, advising what you wish him or her to do because they have shown you their big book of worries. So that's the fourth tip that I want to give. The fifth thing that I want to ask you to think about is that we are not, sometimes what happens is we identify with our projects and enterprises quite severely, right? And we take everything on our projects and enterprises. It can be a book you are writing, it can be an enterprise that you are doing, it can be the promotion that you are after, it can be the exam that you want to pass. There can be anything, but this over-focusing results in a very narrow view of ourselves. So I think I'd like all of us in the long term to play around with multiple self-images of ourselves. You as a humorous person, you as a father, you as a son, you as a spouse, you as a listener, you as a connoisseur of music, you as a connoisseur of jocular scenes in movies, in multiple ways, you as a stamp collector. So I think we don't give full play to the multiple things that we are and we can be. So we narrow ourselves into a very single dimensional view of ourselves. So try to expand the notion of who you are, not with one portrait, with multiple portraits to choose from. So that's what I would call as the fifth thing. So just summarizing so far, understand your stress profile. Which of these 10 external stressors are bothering you at the moment? Where you would say it bothers me. If I said, does it bother you? You would say agree or strongly agree. There is a proper questionnaire behind it, but for the sake of quick diagnostic, I'm saying this is something that you can look at. Secondly, play the working memory test, and in that process, improve your working memory capacity, where you are able to suppress what is irrelevant to the task and bring in what is relevant to the task, and thereby become very efficient in solving problems. Thirdly, write a big book of worries to give full play to all the emotions that you are feeling, and show this big book to yourself as if it's a friend's book, and write a letter to your best friend counseling him or her, and expand your self-portrait instead of one single picture to multiple pictures that you can really choose from. Don't over-identify yourself with one project, one thing, good or bad, it doesn't matter, but don't over-identify yourself. You are much more than the one project that you are doing. And the sixth thing that I would say is that our body itself can be used as a compass of well-being. When I say compass, it can show you are we feeling well. When you say compass, it can also be used to navigate our direction in terms of walking to a well-being. For example, the simple act of standing tall and standing firm and pretending you are a banyan tree, right? And before any major meeting, before any major call, and just pretending that you are that very solid figure standing tall is has been proven to induce certain biochemical changes in your body by which you can deal with the things and the stresses of your life. So use your body as a well-being compass. Listen to your body once every day for 15 minutes. See what sensations are happening at different parts of your body, starting from your toe all the way to your head. Just listen to your body, what sensations is it producing, what does it feel like. Observe your breath. How are you wanting to breathe? Don't force yourself into deep breaths, long breaths, count of 4. I wouldn't recommend any of it. Just listen to your body, breathe, and see however way your body wants to breathe like that, and just observe how you are breathing, okay, without really pushing the body or breath to any particular rhythm or any of these. Just use your body, stand tall, and these themselves are expected to create a lot of biochemical changes in your brain. And for those who are more interested in exploring this, listen to Amy Cuddy in her TED Talk. So go to TED Talks and listen to Amy Cuddy. She talks about how your body language and how you manipulate your bodies can be used to give yourself a better shot at being successful. So that's the sixth tip. Use your body as a compass of well-being. The seventh tip is that we all have different sensitivity to positive emotions. So when I teach in class, I ask people to name the different kinds of positive emotions that they experience. And the individual who is able to name the most variety of positive emotions usually is the most emotionally resilient we discover in questionnaires. So our ability to recognize multiple positive emotions in oneself or in others is a very key sensitivity that we can develop for our own emotional well-being. For example, absorption is a positive emotion, gratitude is a positive emotion, compassion is a positive emotion, interest is a positive emotion, curiosity is a positive emotion, and happiness is a positive emotion, contentment is a positive emotion, elation is a positive emotion, bliss is a positive emotion, joy is a positive emotion, feeling pride when our children are praised is a positive emotion, feeling secure is a positive emotion, feeling cared for is a positive emotion, feeling cozy is a positive emotion. I have given you several. And in fact, there is a taxonomy of 350 different types of positive emotions that one can experience that is being compiled. So people who are more sensitive to positive emotions and who can recognize different types of positive emotions, awe is a positive emotion, for example. So there are so many positive emotions, but often we are not sensitive to that. And if you pay attention to the variety of positive emotions that you experienced today, right, or your friend experienced today, your spouse experienced today, and simply notice that and note that down as to what exactly that meant, that will increase your sensitivity to positive emotions. And just because you are able to detect so many positive emotions, the chance that you could be aroused with one, the probability of that increases. So that is what I call as improving sensitivity to positive emotions. The eighth tip that I would say is what I call as mindfulness. So mindfulness is a very big buzzword these days, but I will decompose that into just 5 things. Are you able to notice? Are you able to notice the little things that are happening around you, both yourself and what are happening around you? Are you able to describe? So if you can just look outside the window right now and notice in very intricate detail whatever is outside your window. And the fact that you are absorbed in noticing the little intricate detail itself is the first step into mindfulness. To be able to describe what you are noticing to yourself is the second step to mindfulness. And to realize that you are noticing and describing, to act with awareness, is a third step to mindfulness. Mindfulness is about noticing, describing, acting with awareness, non-reactivity and non-judgment, not judging yourself too quickly, but just simply waiting and noticing. That's mindfulness. And the ninth thing I would say is really what I can call as dream work. So before you go to bed in the night, just go 1 hour backward, then 1 more hour backward, and 1 more hour backward, and just recall before you go to sleep the emotions you felt that day, the little hurt, the little disappointment, the little joys, the little surprises, whatever little things. So go hour by hour and try to recollect what exactly the set of emotions you felt that day. And the moment you do that, what happens is you are actually allowing your dreams to be able to do deeper work. And then the moment you sit down and sleep in the night and in the morning, before you shake yourself up, try and jot down the dreams that you are having. I think that's a very important exercise. And try to ask yourself, and dreams always tell us something that we don't want to hear in waking life. And if you internalize this principle and then ask in a codified language, is my dream telling me something? And usually dreams have a lot of power to problem solve for you, because in dreams you are not judging yourself too harshly. You are a little loose about yourself, and therefore a lot of creative combinations are possible. So by before going to sleep, trying to recall hour by hour what you felt in each of the hour, the major emotions that you felt all the way to the beginning of the day, and then going to sleep. And then the following morning, try to note down the dreams that you are having, and wondering very simply. There are many techniques. It's too short for me to go through those techniques here. But simply wondering, what is this trying to tell me that if it told me in waking life, I wouldn't want to hear? So there's something that we don't want to hear that our dreams are telling us, and use that as a way to think about our waking life problems. So I would say that's the dream work. And the last tip really, and it's not very important, very immediate, but very important is, see, we need to cultivate wide interests, genuine interests not in persons, but in things. And when we cultivate wide, genuine, impersonal interests, we will be much, much, much happier than we are today. And that is the best trick to what to emotional well-being. As entrepreneurs, I understand that you would be going through a lot, but as I said, I can't wish many things away. I don't have a magic wand, but I'm giving you 10 ways to be the best version of yourself that is so important at this stage today. So very quickly, in 1 minute, to summarize, understand your stress profile. Among the 10 things that I mentioned, which 3 are bothering you? Try to sacrifice some goals for you to be able to not have that in your stress profile. Play the N-back game to actually increase your working memory and fine-tune your working memory and see how you are doing. Write down and make a big book of worries. Repeat what you have. Exactly write down what worries you. You will notice a big book of worries is actually a small book of worries, a list of small worries. And show it to yourself as if your friend is showing you, and write a letter as if you are writing and advising your best friend. And always have multiple portraits of yourself to choose from, not one single thing. Don't over-identify yourself with what is happening today. If you recall in your own life, the biggest stressor you had 10 years ago, if I ask you to recall, you will probably laugh at it right now. 10 years later, even this is going to look like the very same thing. We can't figure out what we will value in the future. We are very poor as human beings to do that. But the 10-year test will tell you that what you are going through, even though you think it is the very center of your life that can destroy you, frankly, does not matter that much. So that is the thing. And have multiple self-images to choose from. Don't over-identify yourself with one thing that you are doing. and use your body as a well-being compass. See Amy Cuddy's video. Stand tall, observe your body, listen to the sensations in your body, and observe your breath and figure out how your body wants to breathe. Don't change it. Just observe how your body wants to breathe. If it wants to take shallow breath, let us take shallow breath. If it wants to take a deep breath, let it take a deep breath. If it wants the inhalation to be longer than exhalation, let it do that. If it wants the exhalation to be longer than inhalation, let it do that. It just doesn't matter. But observe your body and tune into it. And by giving its due, your body will come back and assist you. And identify different types of positive emotions. I described several to you, and develop a sensitivity to positive emotions by describing the positive emotions you and others felt now or any point in your life. So list them and practice mindfulness by noticing, describing, acting with awareness, non-reacting and non-judgment. Mindfulness creates the buffer space between stimulus and response so that it becomes a response, not a reaction. You are not driven by some inner dynamics, but you are logically and rationally responding to things because you need a buffer between stimulus and response, and mindfulness provides that stimulus, that buffer space. Therefore, practice mindfulness every day in very simple terms by noticing, describing, acting with awareness, non-reactivity, non-judgment, and recall all hour by hour everything that you felt, the big and small emotions that you felt throughout the day before you go to sleep, and the following morning write your dreams and wonder what is the dream trying to tell me. If it told me in making life, I wouldn't be willing to listen. I would have shut it out. So listen to what your subconscious mind is thinking, feeling, worrying, agitated about. And just by listening to it, you will notice that it is able to come up with very playful, creative solutions. And overall, have very wide, genuine, impersonal interest. In the long run, that is the biggest antidote to emotional ill health and unhappiness, and it is the best medicine to happiness and emotional well-being and overall well-being, and the best shot at success. I want to take just a minute to say that studies have proven that it is happiness that causes success more than success causing happiness. And a Harvard psychologist called Sean Anker has written a whole book about it. There's a lot of research about it, and you can Google Barbara Fredrickson about the research that she has done in this area. And with that, I did get the questions that some of you had sent to Kavitha. Feel free to re-ask them or ask any questions that come to your mind right now, either on chat or the way Kavitha wants to moderate. Over to you, Kavitha.
Thank you so much, Anand. This was like, reading a book actually. Wonderful. So the great tips which we can actually do practically. It's not just the theory part. We'll definitely work on this. Maybe I'll try to put all these points and give a handout to all the participants so that it becomes easy for them to look at it and follow. Yeah, maybe I think we can take a few questions from the audience. You have any specific question? Okay, so there is one question on how to be calm and cool while appearing on screen and on dais. So this is like little common because nowadays we're all on a lot of virtual meetings on a daily basis, especially during this situation.
Right, it's a very good question. And firstly, don't try to fit in the screen. Don't try to be self-conscious. And even physiotherapists say that you don't have to be erect and so on, right? These days, the view on that is different. Okay. So your next posture that your body naturally adapts is your best posture. So try to be yourself, try to be self-compassionate. Don't worry about many of those things, and let it take care of itself. Even when you are not on screen, the way you appeared is how you appear to others. If that did not bother you so far, just because it is like a mirror in front of you, it need not bother you right now. So that's really how I would like us to think about that situation, so that you are not over conscious about it.
Okay. And the other question was, I thought it will be useful to everybody. How should we handle employees who are already stressed because of this COVID-19 pandemic? Because that is an important thing as an entrepreneur.
Right. I think, if you apply the 10 stressor formula to employees, you can find out what are they stressed about. And see as an employer if we can ameliorate any one of those 10 in any way possible. And assuming that it is not possible, right? We can also counsel employees with the same principles of well-being that is applicable to entrepreneurs, and say that figure out whether it is something that you can do anything about, right? Acknowledge all the emotions that you are feeling, and the rational thing to do is to be the best version of ourselves right now. And as long as we are doing that, we should say that we did what we could.
Okay. Okay, that takes me to the next question. So we are extending our working hours and odd hours, especially when we are working from home. So is there a way to avoid burnout, because that is also causing a little bit of stress?
Again, a very good question. I think one of the things that office caused is commute, which was a stressor. One of the things that we have overcome because of the COVID-19 pandemic is commute. But instead, we have actually invited another stressor, the idea of a 24/7, right? 24/7 is also a stressor that I mentioned. So that's because our spaces are fused. So we are not able to separate what is work and what is individual. So little rituals like, when you are working in front of the laptop, you will wear a certain particular kind of slipper or do something that is very ritualistic, and then going and doing a ritual to tell yourself mentally that now that is over and you have come to something else. That can help us unwind a little faster. So that's one little mental trick that you can play to yourself to say, office is now over when you do. So maybe wash your face, or drink a cup of water, or remove a particular cloth or footwear or something that you happen to have when you are working. And then when you take it away, you mentally tell yourself that, no, I'm now done with it. And as employers to employees, respect that time and say that, beyond this time, we won't do, have fixed hours, and more importantly, give predictability. It doesn't matter if you have to work 8 to 9, but as long as predictability is that people can work their lives around it. It doesn't have to be that we have to drop dead at 6 and just go and jump around as if the world has ended. That's not the idea. The idea is to be predictable.
Okay, so one last question. How to handle failure, especially for entrepreneurs? If one of the venture fails, so, how are we supposed to handle that?
See, one, as I said, is you are not a single portrait. Don't over-identify yourself with it. Recognize that entrepreneurship by nature is an activity that is prone to failure. And but it advances, as a society, what works, knowledge of what works and does not work. The fact that you had a courage to take an insurmountable challenge means that you are more resourceful than an average individual. So if you rationally think about it, you have a better chance of success than an average individual who is not even taken that risk. Don't over-identify. And when you feel at some point of time that it is a dead horse, don't flog it any further, move on. At the same time, don't do something to prove it to others, right? Always don't worry about what others will think when I do this, or what others will approve, disapprove. Because others will disapprove, or because I have taken this, don't cling on. At the same time, don't leave it because others will think something. So don't do it for others. That's the first this thing, because that's not rational. So you have a lot of, claim your personal freedom and claim your personal space, and think about very hard what it is you are doing. Is it temporary, permanent? I don't have a specific solution unless there is a specific problem. But then take a considered call like that. But overall, you are more than one project that you are doing, right? So don't identify yourself too much with one thing.
Yeah, wonderful. I think that was great. I think I didn't get any questions on the chat here, but there were a few others, but I will still keep it open and take the questions. And if there's something else, then we will still take it offline. And I would recommend all the audience to go buy this book called Happiness at Work. I bought mine. My friend has borrowed and not returned. That's a good sign that the book is great. So that is the book. So there's a very scientific approach to the whole thing that we generally discuss about stress. There's a psychoanalysis, there's a dream analysis, there's a lot more to that. So, this is not just for professionals, entrepreneurs or something. This is for anybody who would really want to be happy. I would recommend this book to be bought. I think it was great, Anand. All the tips that you've told us, I will put it across and maybe prepare a small handout. Thank you
Sure.
so much for your time. I know in spite of your busy schedule, you've given us this time. I think it would have been extremely useful for all the entrepreneurs here. So I will also have a recorded version of the video to be up shortly.
Thank you, Kavitha. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the wonderful questions that you all sent.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anand. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the audience.
Yeah, thanks, Kavitha. Thanks, Anand. It was very insightful.